Hey everyone, Val here, and I have been asked to do a tutorial on the walker and wheelchair bags that I make for From the Heart Stitchers that are donated to people who are using wheelchairs and walkers. So I'm going to start the tutorial. So as you can see here, I got the material laid out and I have it rolled up so that there's 2 layers of material there, and there's a fold closest to my body. I'm working here to make sure that the all the seams are straight and even. I'm using the tan material as my template for the bags. I've already pre-measured the template. The bags are 14 inches wide and 15 inches tall. My template is rolled over too, the way the material is, in case I need that template to do a long piece, but I do have it rolled over. I'm just making sure it's even so that I get a perfect cut on the bag. At this point, you could pin the material so that it doesn't move when you're trying to cut it. I don't do that because I've been doing it for a while, and I'm just very careful that the material doesn't move while I'm cutting, and I'm just gonna cut it without pinning it. But if you feel more comfortable pinning it, then you would go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're just gonna finish up cutting across the top, and we are ready to cut our second piece, which we've got to cut the pockets and the straps. Now we're going to cut the pocket, and the pocket is going to be 8.5 inches tall by 9 inches wide. You're only going to need 1 pocket for the bag, so I'm going to cut my pocket using a single layer of the material. Again, if you want to pin it onto the material so it doesn't move, you can do that. I'm just going to hold it and cut it, and be very careful that it doesn't move. Now we're going to cut out the straps. So I'm going to use the same template that I used for the pocket, but I'm going to roll the material up, put the pocket template on top of it, and cut it that way. Again, you can pin it if you want to, but we need a long strap. So we're going to double the material to make it twice the length of the pocket. So let's cut that out now. Like I said, you can pin it if you want to pin it. I'm just going to hold it steady and cut it. You open the material, you have 1 long piece of material that's going to be used to make the straps out of. Alright, so I have all my pieces here. Have my pocket. I have my 4 straps. This is going to be my 4 straps. And then I have my bag. And you can see when I cut this out, this was 1 continuous piece because I folded the material over when I cut it out. So I have 1 long piece. So where do we start? I start with the pocket. Now the pocket is longer. I cut it out longer than it is taller, so I make sure that I have it laid with the long side, and I'm going to flip it over. This is going to be my top. You might look at the pattern on it and see if it has a flower or something. You want the flower pointing up, so you want to make sure that you know which side is the top side, because I'm going to sew this a little bit different. Now this material is a little bit stretchy. I didn't realize that when I bought it, so it's a little bit harder to work with than the regular upholstery material. But I do shop online because there's no local stores. So I got something that I wasn't I wasn't aware that I bought, but I'm using it anyway. It's very workable. I've done a bag already. I've with this actually done 2 bags, so it's very workable. So what I'm going to do is I eyeball a lot of stuff. It makes it easier. I don't do a lot of pinning when I'm doing these. It's pretty much eyeballed. It looks pretty straight to the top. I'm gonna just take a little piece off it here. Well, maybe not. I may have cut it just a little bit not straight. Alright. Alright. So, what I'm going to do with the top is I'm going to put a little seam on it because I want a finished edge. So, I'm going to roll this down a little bit and then roll it again so that this is a finished edge and there's not anything loose hanging out. So like if I only laid it once, it would be a loose edge. I'm going to roll it. And then I have been doing this long enough that I'm just going to eyeball it to make sure that it's the same all the way across. So I'm going to bring my sewing machine down here and I'm just going to stitch it across because this is going to have an extra stitching on it. So let me do a little roll here. I'm going to start it and stitch it across. Okay. Sometimes I have to pull the threads in the back to make it work right, but let's see if I get you down here a little bit closer. There you go. Hope the lighting is okay. Sorry if it's not. This way when they're reaching into the pocket, there's a finished edge and it doesn't look unfinished. Go across it here and try to keep it, the end is where I tend to want to go a little thinner, so I have to just eyeball it and make sure I got it correct so that it's even all the way across. And I just kind of go down through the center when I do my stitching. Okay. Now when I get to the end, I'm going to make sure the needle's all the way down in it. But I'm going to just turn it up one time. I'm going to fold it under so that I just have a one fold. And let me see if I can get on top of it. There we go. Alright, and then turn it. Alright, so this side, being these are the sides and the bottom, I'm going to have the open edge on them. I'm not going to worry about making sure I have a finished edge because they're inside the pocket, and I'm going to restitch over them once I put the pocket onto the material. So again, I want to try to get it even. So I want a nice even edge on it, and I'm just bringing it in just the slightest amount. And I'm going to turn up the bottom, and I'm going to continue the same way all the way around to the end. Try to keep your stitching as straight as you can get it. Now, I'm not claiming to be an expert at this because I just do this as a hobby. But I did want to respond back to Sun Lin because she asked me if I would do a tutorial. And I don't have a problem showing you how I do it. This is how I do it. I'm sure there's other ways to do it. Probably better ways to do it, but this is how I do it. So, alright. And the last edge. Now, I'm sure that people aren't going to look and say, your pocket's you know, fraction of an inch larger than mine. I'm sorry if my hands are in the way. I don't think it's gonna matter, you know? So this is the finished product. This is your finished edge. There's no fraying there because it's turned over. And then these are your side edges, and you can see that it's a rough edge. But once you get it into onto the bag, you're only going to be able to see the finished edge on it. So what are we going to do next? The pocket's finished. There's your pocket. You know, when you put it on the bag, the finished edge has to be up. So let's try to do the straps. We got 4 straps. I cut 1 piece of material. Now what I do is I do turn this over as an unfinished edge at the top, just to have the 1 tuck, and stitch it across. And I do it as the big piece instead of cutting it into 4 pieces. This makes it a lot easier than stitching across 4 little pieces. So let me give it its finished edge here. I hope you can see. I'm sorry for my big hands being in the way. I'm just going to stitch off the material. I'm not going to worry about putting a finished edge on the stitching because this is going to be cut anyway. So let me trim my thread on the edges here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom edge. And like I said, I just eyeball it. I'm not having a problem with the way they're turning out. This is the way I do it. And everybody seems to like the bags. I'm not really concerned. Alright, so here's the material. We have to get 4 straps out of this, right? So we want 4 equal straps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the material over, line up the side, and if you are not comfortable doing this, you can pin it. If you want to pin it, you can pin it. I don't, because I've been doing this for a while now. So I just kind of flatten it out, and as I'm cutting up, I'm watching my seams to make sure my seams aren't moving. I have you have to have a good pair of scissors now. So you want to get a nice pair of scissors that you haven't cut paper and stuff with, so that you can get a nice cut on it. So as I'm holding it, I'm cutting it up the side so that these 2 pieces are going to be the same size. Just double checking, making sure my seams are staying together. As I'm cutting, I want to make sure that I get a nice even cut. And there we go. So now I have 2 pieces of material that are the exact same size. I need 4 straps, so I'm going to have to do the same thing again. And I'm going to, again, just make sure it's laying flat. Make sure my edges are together, and cut up the side. Now I'm in between the material with my scissors, and I'm pulling on it just a little bit to make sure that my cut is staying straight. Alright, so there I have 2 pieces that are exactly the same size. Just got to cut this little piece of string there. All right, so you see there's 2 pieces the same size. I need 4, so I'm going to do the same thing with this last strap. All right. Now I do keep the leftover pieces of material in case I have a boo-boo on a piece of material. Hopefully I can fix it. Alright, so now I have my 4 straps. Let's make a strap out of it, shall we? Alright, my 4 pieces of material, I should say. Alright, let me get my sewing machine back over here. Alright. This is your strap. Zoom you in a little bit here so you see what I'm doing. This is your strap. This is the bottom side of the material. What I do is I'm going to fold it over and fold this side over so they meet in the middle. And then just make sure the edges at the bottom don't overlap, because then it's going to be a thickness there that you don't want. So there we go. So I've got them even. I got the 2 edges folded in so they meet in the middle. That's going to be the length of your strap right there. So I'm going to put it into my sewing machine here. Let me back you up just a little bit, or move you down here. There you go. So, and I'm going to put a stitching right down the very edge of it, okay? Just a little bit, but I'm going to do my straight stitch. I pull the thread back here to get it started. I don't know, sometimes they're hard to get started. And I'm going to go in reverse all the way to the edge of the strap, because I want to make sure I have a good stitching on the strap. And then we're going to come down. Now, come down as straight as you can. And as you're going, I keep the material folded. So I'm going to stitch down to where my fingers are here, because that's about where I've finished my folding. And then pick up your material and fold it into the center again. If you want to do this ahead of time and pin it, you can. I don't do that. It just, to me, it takes the extra time that I don't really need to do it, because I can do it as I'm sewing. You can see the strap is coming together nicely. Cut the strings off the end. I'm going to tuck in my centers again here, and I'm going to keep stitching, and you can kind of see I'm not too far in from the edge, but I'm going to try to keep it as straight as I can. I'm lining the edge up with the inside of my presser foot here, so that I can keep as straight of a line as I can. I mean, if you're off a little bit, I don't think anybody's going to see it. It's not like I'm, you know, selling these for a large amount of money or anything. I'm donating these. Not that I don't want them to be perfect, but I think that the stitching is good on them. Alright. And then I will make sure that my bottom edge is as thick, or as equal in length going across as my top edge. I don't want an odd looking handle, so just want to make sure that it's perfect. as perfect as I can get it. I'm going to do a reinforcement stitch there at the bottom, and there you have it. Let's see this. Alright, so the strap is done. That's one strap. Can you see the stitching on it? If you can see the stitching, how far I came from the edge of the strap is right there. So I have to do the other 4, and I'll do those, and then we'll come back and work on the bag. Okay, so I have the bag, and let's do the bag part of it now. I want a nice edge on the top of the bag, a finished edge. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm not going to pin it, but if you want, you can pin it. If you're more comfortable doing that, you can pin it. I'm going to fold it over about this much, and this much is, let's see, about 1/2 inch. So I fold it over about 1/2 inch, and then fold it over again. So we have a finished edge. On these, we're going to have a finished edge. Okay, so we're going to do the 2 folds on it, bring our sewing machine down, and I'll put my presser foot right on the edge of it. If you can see, let me bring you in here. So this side of my presser foot is pretty much even with the side of the bag, so that when I come down, if I stay here on this top side of the bag with my presser foot, the stitching coming down is going to be even, and I do want my stitching to be even. So this is about almost the width of my finger. This is how I pretty much gauge how far to turn it over. So again, I don't really have to reinforce the edges because I'm going to be sewing the edges together. So I'm going to just do a nice even stitch down till I get to my finger. Let me cut I like to cut these off so I don't snag them on something. Alright, let me get a nice even turn over here. So this is kind of the width here of my presser foot. So you can kind of see how wide the edging is going to be. Like I said, you can pin this. You can pin it if it's easier for you to pin it before you stitch it. You do want to try to make it even. Alright, so that's the one edge of the bag, and it's a finished edge. If you can see it, you can come down a little bit lower with the stitching. I did go maybe a little bit too high on this one with the stitching. I like to be a little bit closer to the edge, but it's not going to hurt this bag. So let me do the other edge, and I'm going to do it the exact same way, and I'll be right back. So both of the edge seams done. They're both stitched and looking good. So I'm going to put this with the edges even, like the bag is finished. Make it look like the bag is finished. Now if this has a pattern this is a leopard pattern, so there's, you know, it's not really any correct way. It's not like there's flowers on it or anything. But if there was, I would look for the side that maybe the flowers are going the opposite way or the wrong way or something. I would leave the flowers going the right way on the back side of it, and cover up the ones with the pocket that maybe they're not going in the right direction or something, because I want the back to have the right pattern on it. I don't know if I'm explaining that right or not. But anyway, we're going to put the pocket on. So we want to make sure we have that finished edge on the top. And this is the finished edge. So that's going to go on the top. The other edges are going to go on the side and bottom. We want to get it as maybe about 2 inches up. So this is 2 inches here. So we want to get it probably 2 inches up. So make sure that you're even here on the top edge, so that, and my edges aren't sewed together yet. So we would just want to make sure that we got the top edges of the bag together, and then a couple inches up, and then let's see, I got like 3 inches here and just about 3 inches here. So I'm going to slide it this way just a little bit so it's centered on this bag. That's a little less than 3. That's a little less than 3. So that's pretty centered right there. And I am going to pin this. I'm going to put 3 pins in this. And I'm going to bring them in from the edge, because my stitching is going to go down this edge here. Make sure your pocket's laying flat. Put another pin here just through the first layer, not through the bottom, because we don't want to stitch the pocket through both sections there. And then 1 pin on the bottom. Alright, so we're ready to stitch the pocket on, and we're not stitching the top, so I'm not going to put a pin in there. Alright, this I'm stitching on a Kenmore, alright, and this is a older Kenmore, but my setting is on a straight stitch between 8 and 12, so somewhere around 10, all right, with the 0 width on it. So this is where I have been stitching on my machine. There we go. So make sure you only have 1 layer of the material. We don't want to stitch the 2 layers together. We're going to come to the edge of the pocket, and you're going to start just a little hair above the pocket, because you don't want the pocket again to rip off, right? Because you're going to be putting stuff in there. Now you want to follow this stitching where you laid the material over and stitched it down earlier. You want to follow that stitching just as closely as you can and go directly on top of it, so it doesn't look like it's been stitched twice. Now I am going to reinforce this pocket on there, because I don't want the edges to fray if they put something heavy in there. And I hope that you can see this. I'm going to do my very best to follow the existing line on there. Alright, and then turn my material and follow the line. Now when I come to this top of the pocket edge here, I'm going to go over it, over the edge, to make sure I have a good seam, and then reinforce it by going back and forth one time. Alright, so let me cut these threads. We'll go to our next step. We've got the pocket on there. Okay, so we are going to fold this with the right side inside, because this is we're going to sew up the sides to finish up our bag. So we want to make sure that both sides are even on the top. I'll pull that up just a notch. It's laying even, it's laying nice and even, but it's very important that these tops are even, because we don't want our bags to not have an even top. Okay, so we're going to make sure that the tops are as exact as we can get them. And we're going to come down here and we're going to do our side seam. Now I do my side seam with the presser foot right at the edge of the material, right there at the edge of the material. I don't put a wide seam in this because it doesn't need to have a wide seam in it. So I'm going to stay at the same setting with a straight stitch. I'm going to start at the very top of the bag and do a reinforcement stitch at the top of the bag. And then I'm going to stay right with my presser foot at the very edge of the material. So as I'm going down, because I am not pinning this, I'm going to make sure it's even. Going all the way down, pulling it if I need to pull it. It's important that you make sure your edges are even when you're cutting it, so that your bag is straight. You don't want a crooked bag. So be careful to look at it before you start sewing to make sure everything is going to be even. I thought this material was going to be harder to work with because it is got a little bit of a stretch to it, but it's really not that bad. So doing the second side, again, you want to make sure that your tops are lined up together. I'm going to put it under there and do a oh, it got off just a bit. I'm going to just double check it. I want it to be even at the top. So let me do my reinforcement stitch here all the way past the top and down, because I don't want it to rip at the top at all. Just keep it straight. Okay, so I hope my hands have not been getting in your way. Alright, so my stitching down the side is done. What I do, because some of the material I use does tend to have a fray along the edge, and I don't want this material to fray, so I put a zigzag stitch along the edges to help to reinforce it and keep the material from fraying. This material here doesn't have as bad of a fray going on. It has a little bit, but not as bad. So this is my zigzag stitch. I'm going to set it between the two, almost at the 3, or you can do a 3 either way, but I'm going to put my zigzag stitch at a 3. I'm going to keep this stitching the same, and we're going to put a zigzag stitch going down the edge of the material to keep it from fraying. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to start on the very top edge here. I'm going to zigzag down, and then I'm going to back it up to do a reinforcement zigzag stitch, and then come back down. Now I want the edge of my needle when it's zigzagging to be on the very edge of the material so that it'll stop any fraying that might be happening. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see it. Good. Try to stay very much on the edge. Do a little reinforcement on the bottom, and there you have it. Alright, so there's the zigzag stitch with the straight stitch beside it. So this is what my finished edge is going to look like. Okay, that's the inside edge. That's the outside. Alright, so let me do the other side and we'll finish this up. I've got both of my sides zigzagged. My bag is finished, so I'm going to turn it back out. I'm poking my corners here to help it turn. Make sure I got nice corners. Alright, and then we're going to turn it back out. Alright, so you should have a nice finished bag. Doesn't have straps yet, but it's nice and finished. You got your nice pocket there. Everything's strong. Your seams are strong. Nice strong seams on there. They're not pulling apart. I put my machine back on straight stitch. We don't need any more zigzagging. There's no stitching along the bottom, as you can see, because this is one piece that we flipped over. You know, we rolled our material up and we used one piece. So this is what the bag looks like. So let's get these straps started. We've got our straps and we're going to be attaching those to the top of the bag. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's attach the straps. Okay, we have 4 straps. I have the inside of the material here. I've brought them in 3 inches. So right there is your 3 inches. Okay, I put the straps so that the seams on them face out, so that they're all facing the same way. All the seams are facing out. This one is directly on top of this one so that they're even. This strap is, the seam on this strap right there is facing out. And then the same on this side. They're 3 inches in. The edge of the seam, oh, it's a little bit off, just a tad bit there. Okay, the edge of the seam is at 3 inches and this seam is facing the outside. So for me, it just makes it look neater that all the seams are going out. And then this is ready to be sewed here. Okay, so I have a pin in it holding it on. I have the strap, so it's a little bit below the rim where I have stitched it on the rim here. You see this is the rim. The strap is coming down just a little bit below that because I want a nice strong strap on there. I don't want the strap to break off. So when I start the stitching, I'm going to actually start it just a little bit above where this meets here, because I don't want a weak seam. I don't want this to be weak here, and so this be pulling on this and pull off. I want it to be a nice strong strap. So I'm going to start to the right side of the strap. Make sure my strap is straight, and I'm going to stitch just the edge here, don't know if you can see it or not, but just slightly in from the edge of the strap, I'm going to start the stitching. Okay, so when I stitch, I'm going to use a straight stitch, and I have it on the same setting, and I'm going to go straight down from the very top to almost the very bottom, and then I'm going to back up and go in reverse and goes over the stitching that I just did all the way to the top, and then I'm going to come down and try to stay exactly on the stitching that you've already done, because it'll not look as sloppy, and you want it neat, but you want it to be strong. So I always do down, back up, and then down again to create a stronger bond for the thread there, for the strap. All right, let me cut off my edge piece here. I'm going to pull the pin out at this point because I don't like running over pins with my sewing machine. Going to go straight across and back, staying on top of my thread, and then straight across again. Turn it back up, and then I'm going to try to follow the seam that I sewed on the strap. Follow the seam up to make it a nice neat seam on there. And again, I went all the way to the top. I couldn't go any farther up. All right, and there you go. That's the strap. Let me cut my string here and show you the strap. Okay, let's see. Trying to get some good lighting for you here, but that's what the strap looks like, front and back. It's strong. It's not going to rip, and I'm going to do the rest on the other 4 sides. Okay, so this is our finished product. When I get finished, I am going to, when I finish all of them that I'm doing, I got 5 to do, I'm going to get my iron out and I'm going to press it so that I have nice flat sides on it. There is no stitching along the bottom. It's just one continuous piece on there. So it makes it stronger. Pocket on there. All 4 of the straps are stitched on, and they can be tied onto a walker or a wheelchair, and that's the bag. No pocket on the back. Of course, I need to press it to make it neater, but that's what the bag is looking like. So thank you all for watching. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not subscribed and you want to, and let me know what else I can do a tutorial on for you. If there's anything else that I do that you would like to see, I don't mind showing you how to do it. All right, have a good day now.